Hey friends, I had this great memory I wanted to share with you from like 1980, 40 years ago. I was working at a warehouse in Orange, Connecticut, near my hometown of West Haven, and I had this dream of perhaps being a full-time musician, full-time musical theater performer. I started getting into musical theater in my senior year of high school in 1979. And so my voice teacher, Dr. Louis Negri, who we lost about 2 years ago, and God rest his soul, he taught me so much about singing and performing. He sent a bunch of his vocal students. He had like 60, 70 different students that he was coaching. He sent a bunch of us to this dinner theater audition in a place called Darien, Connecticut. It's actually just a few exits from New York City. And the Darien Dinner Theater had started in 1977, and I think they were auditioning for Pirates of Penzance. And so a bunch of us went down in a couple of cars, and we waited and waited and waited. I think I was there 4 or 5 hours, and I had the opportunity to sing maybe 30 seconds of music. Okay, and I really wanted to just leave. I thought, I'm not going to get into this thing. So I sang my part, thanked them, drove home, and about 2 or 3 days later, I received a phone call that I had actually had a successful audition to be in the chorus. And what would have happened was, if I did that show and perhaps 3 or 4 more shows, I would have been able to be part of I think it's called the Actors Guild, something like that. And I would have received this equity card. And by getting that card, I could have auditioned for shows in New York, perhaps Broadway, off Broadway. I was so excited. So I told my mom when I got home from there that from my actually I was at my voice lesson when I found out that I received the news I had a successful audition. I told my mom, and I thought she'd be so excited because my mom was kind of a stage mom and loved to see me in different shows. And she said, "Well, if you do the show, what about the house?" You see, my mom didn't make a lot of money. My twin brother made a decent amount of money, but not a ton of money. I was actually the breadwinner, and I paid a lot of room and board to keep our house. She said, if you leave your job to go do the show, because I would have had to go to towards New York and perhaps get a part-time job and do six evening shows and 2 matinees. It was going to be like a full-time thing. She said, what about the house? So I went to talk to Dr. Negri, and I thought for sure he'd come up with a plan, come up with a way to help me figure this out. And I remember him talking to me, and he said, well, David, you really need to take care of your home. You need to take care of your family first. And so you probably need to turn this thing down. I was so shocked. And I remember making the phone call to the dinner theater, and I said, I'm so sorry, but I have to turn this down. And I remember the young man on the other side saying, do you know what you're doing? Are you sure you want to do this? I said, I have to do this. And I remember sitting down alone shortly after this happened, and I just cried. I just cried. Out of all the folks that went for this audition, somehow I was the one from West Haven, Connecticut that was accepted, but I couldn't do it. And I cried and I cried, and I remember going to work the next day, packing freight at this company. Well, the Bible says in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. And I realized looking back 40 years ago that if I had gone and done that show, perhaps my mother loses the house. Perhaps I get into some situation, I meet the wrong people in New York, and maybe something goes terribly wrong. Maybe I get into drug abuse or alcohol abuse. Maybe I become sick with some disease. I don't know. All I know is I wouldn't be where I am today if I had done that show. And as devastated as I was then, I could look back now 40 years later and say I'm glad as to where I am now. So friend, perhaps things have gone wrong in your life and you have had many disappointments. If you trust in the Lord with all your heart, and don't lean unto your own understanding or my understanding, and keep acknowledging him, God will direct your paths. And where maybe a door will be closed in your life, God will open a better door for your life. And so remember that God has a plan for you. And whether we take detours or stray away from the main path, God has a plan for you. And if you trust him, he will direct you. So stay strong, stay faithful, and keep trusting him.